Alright, book nerds, on this episode of the podcast, I'll be speaking with Cassandra, Amell, and Kamen Edwards from Speech and Debate, a short film where, in the high-stakes world of high school speech and debate, if you don't win, you're a loser. This short film is the directorial debut of Cassandra Amell, and it's written by Kamen Edwards. Let's get right into it and hear what they have to tell us about their new short film. Alright, book nerds, we're now speaking with Cassandra and Kamen, the director and writer of Speech and Debate. Thank you both so much for joining us today here on JeanBookNerd. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
So would you both please introduce yourselves and tell us what your role in this film was?
Oh my God, I'll go first. Thank you. I'm Kamen Edwards. I wrote it, and I also played Thomas Shaw in the short.
And I'm Cassandra Jean Amell. I am the director and producer.
Nice. So, Kamen, how did you come up with this idea since you wrote the original script? Where did the idea for this come from? And I gotta also ask, why did you choose Speech and Debate?
Because that was my life in high school. That's all I did was the plays and speech and debate every weekend. I took it very seriously. I wrote a feature version of this probably like 7 or 8 years ago, and just kind of forgot about it.
So whenever, back in the day.
Yeah, forever ago.
Yeah.
And so when Cass and I were brainstorming about what we wanted to do, we knew we wanted to base it on the competitive relationship that Aisha and Steven naturally have. And I was like, oh wait, I have this. I already have something like this. And we just did a few little tweaks.
And Cassandra, since this was, if I remember reading correctly, this is also your directorial debut, correct?
It was, yes, it was.
So how did you become involved in this, and what made you go, I want to direct this?
Well, I knew that I wanted to direct, and one of the things that they tell everybody is, you know, you can go in and you can shadow other directors, and you can read all of the textbooks, and you can take all of the steps for becoming a director. But every single person will tell you have to make your own content. You have to create something, even if it's just a short film, and then you go on to do TV or take another path or whatever. You have to start with a short film or even an iPhone film, something. And so I was really itching to see more comedy and more female directors in comedy. And Kamen is my go-to comedian. So I reached out and said, let's do something funny. And we sort of chose to circle back on this idea and convert it to a short version. And we were lucky enough to do 2 follow-ups after, which we didn't plan at the time, but I'm really glad that we did them because they turned out just hilarious.
So with this being your first time directing, what was the experience like? And also, Kamen, since you wrote this, what was it like seeing Cassandra directing it, and how do you think she handled it? Not to put you on the spot here.
Horribly. Cass and I both have the same mentality of figure it out. And that's very much what we were doing with this. We were both just figuring it out as we went. We shot this with little notice, and we just kind of were grabbing set pieces from over here and putting them in here. And so it was very much just like, we're going to do this no matter what mentality that we had.
Yeah, we put in some manual labor. We were really, really fortunate to get to borrow some props and some set decoration. And they said, you can borrow whatever you want, but you have to come get it. You have to make sure that it's taken care of, all of that stuff. And we said, okay. So we borrowed our friend's pickup truck and went over there, and we were loading furniture and sweating, trying to get all of this done the night before that we were shooting. I think it's really helpful that Kamen and I do have that mentality, and the way that reflects as a writer too, is that we had this script, and some writers are very precious with their words, not as much in comedy, but that does happen. And it was written this way, but here are our limitations, or here's what we're working with. we're going to have to make some changes. We're going to have to improvise a little bit. And, you know, that's what we had to do. And it worked out really well. And we were both happy to work that way. So it was nice. It was a good collaboration.
Also, Aisha hosts a little show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? So improving was
haven't heard of it. Is that a new show?
I know. I'd literally be like, Aisha, I need a vagina joke. And she's like, okay.
Yeah, well, this short film definitely has some recognizable faces in it. So how did everyone involved, how did that process go?
Well, Stephen is my husband, so I asked nicely. I asked him to get on board, and he was also finishing up his, being on 7 years, 8 seasons of a pretty intense action drama, and I think that he was looking to get back into the creative realm and do something funny and just do something completely different than a super serious, brooding superhero. So he got on board, and then we just thought that this project worked really well with, as Kamen mentioned, Aisha and Stephen's, their dynamic as friends. So we asked Aisha to come on board, she came on board, and we got Maddie and Genevieve from my agent. I hit her up and just said, I have this really cool project. We have no budget. So just give me somebody that wants to play. And they ended up being phenomenal. We were so lucky that they were just, on top of being available, they were incredibly talented and they were just awesome to work with. So it just worked out really well.
Nice. No, it's always great when, when a great cast comes together and crew and everyone just comes together, I think flows and you just knock it out of the park.
Yeah. The crew was a lot of Arrow people as well, and they were having so much fun. You could tell that the same way you're saying about Stephen doing the action drama for so long. They were like, oh my God, this is it's really fun to do a comedy. Like, what if we do it this way? Like they were having a blast with it too, which was fun.
We had a few takes where crew was laughing during the take, and I was like, guys, you're professionals. You can't laugh when we're rolling. So that was kind of funny. But then at that point, we're like, all right, well, at least we're doing something right here, and at least we're making people laugh. And, if they're on the set and laughing, that's a really good sign.
Oh, absolutely. You always hear about these stories of, in film and TV of, you having a script, but a lot of people going, like you said, a lot of ad lib and going off script, and just that ends up being even better than the script was planned. Was that the case for this film, or did you mostly stick to the script, or how did the story kind of change and evolve while you were filming?
Yeah, I mean, the story was always the same. The first one is the most to the script of all of them. 2 and 3 we shot during a pandemic, so it was tight and there was crazy restrictions. We were being so careful about things. So improvising, we just tried to do really long takes, basically. We're just improvise a lot of it. So we'd have
I feel like we even had one take that was 9 minutes or something like that. And we the sun was setting and the light was changing, and the camera battery was dying, and we had just the most minimal skeleton crew of 8 people. So I was like, just roll, we'll fix it.
Just keep rolling.
Get all of it. Keep going.
So the improvising was really big in 2 and 3. It was a little bit in 1 as well, but definitely 2 and 3 were a lot more.
I think so, yeah.
So I'm curious to know, while the filming process was going on, were there any challenges that you particularly stand out that you had to overcome during the filming process, or was everything kind of just smooth sailing the whole way?
No, we've never experienced the phrase smooth sailing before.
I was going to say, has anyone?
I mean, it's filmmaking, so
I'm unfamiliar with that.
No, I don't think so. I mean, we had some. We definitely had to get creative. I scouted the entire first, the entire speech and debate film with the director of photography. We scouted everything, and then we found out the night before that we couldn't use like a third of the locations.
Oh my gosh.
So we were just, I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we supposed to do now? And I think we just put together.
We just found walls. We just found walls.
Yeah, we just found extra walls on a soundstage, and we were like, okay, here we go. And we just pulled them up. So, where it looks like one of the classrooms is actually a dummy wall. So, and we had to do some camera tricks to kind of turn around and make it look like a full classroom when it was really only 2 walls.
Do either of you have like a favorite memory from being on set and filming?
Oh,
this isn't the first one, but in the third one we have we released the trailer of the third one?
No, we've released the trailer of the third. We have not released it.
Okay. Do we show who's in it in the trailer?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will.
No spoilers.
I know.
But there are some people on the internet who have thoughts. But no,
okay.
We have not released our surprise guest.
we work with someone in the third one who, from the very first take, had me dying laughing. And so that's definitely my favorite.
Yeah, I would say on the first one, I think that it was just really rewarding in terms of from the producing standpoint. I called in a ton of favors from people that I knew and that I and mostly my husband had worked with for several years in Vancouver. There were a bunch of people from the Arrow crew, but we also had people from Supergirl, Nancy Drew, Riverdale, and to see that they were also happy to be there and do something that was fun and creative and funny. And they gave up their time to be there, and they were happy to do it. And that was something that was really rewarding, knowing that people were voluntarily there, but they were having a great time while they were doing it, and just happy to be there. And there's something that is very rewarding when you see that in action.
Yeah, we definitely, at least I did. I left the first one feeling like it was going to be great too, which is not always the feeling. Whenever you leave the last day, you're always like, I don't know what that was, but I definitely got on the plane and was like, that was funny. We got something really funny. That was good.
Yeah.
Nice. So Cassandra, obviously, directing, your job doesn't end when, you call cut for the final time. There's a lot of process for post-production and editing, sound, color. I know a lot of people probably don't really know too much about that, the continuation. So can you touch on kind of that process and what that was like for you? And Carmen, did you continue on through the process, or once the filming was done, did you kind of say, Cassandra, take this and go where you want?
I mean, there would be, she would do a lot before I would come back in again. I would get a cut and I would give her like one round of notes. But that was really it.
The post-production process is long. I'm sure, I don't think a lot of people realize how much time passes from when you do say that's a picture wrap to when you see a final product. The editing process is, it definitely can be a bit tedious because you're watching the same thing over and over and over and over again. And then you're like, oh, I did a take that was almost like that, but I know that there was one line that happened on the day that it's got to be in there somewhere. So you're watching all of the takes over again.
One more frame.
Right, yeah. And it was also made a bit more difficult by not having a budget really. And I think that it's a lot easier to ask crew for favors because they're on set and they're learning sometimes new positions, or they're being bumped up on the call sheet. But editing is a bit harder. So you kind of go to the back of the line in terms of priority for an editor when you're not paying those big production company dollars. So I would get, I was working with my editor and I would do all my notes and go, okay, here you go. let me know what your questions are. Here's what I want to see. That, you know, this take change. And then I wouldn't hear from him for like 2 weeks. And then he'd come back and be like, okay, here's all the things you asked for. Here are my next questions. Let me know by tonight, okay? And I'm like, oh. So that was difficult, lining up the schedules and the timing and all that stuff. And when we were doing the bulk of the editing, I was on set all day and he was editing all night. So we were on opposite schedules, and I was, you know, sleeping like 3-4 hours a night to be on set on day and then come home and edit at 2 a.m. and to trying to get it done. So that was the post process was a lot.
Oh, I can imagine. I've gone through that world many times myself, and I feel for both you and the editor. I've been in both chairs before. So
sure, yeah.
So from when you first started filming and you got the crew and you were filming to now, you know, the film being done and released, how much of a time period was that?
Well, the pandemic definitely threw a wrench in things.
You don't say.
And I know that it did for everybody, and that we are not special or unique to have that problem. You know, we were going to go strictly the film festival route. Mm-hmm. And then people were sitting at home wanting content, and people were just very engaged online. And we just said, you know what? A lot of these festivals are getting canceled. Early on in the pandemic, and in the spring and the summer, almost everything was canceled or postponed indefinitely. So we just decided to pivot because we wanted people to see it. We were really, really happy with what we made. We thought it was really funny. We thought people would enjoy it. So we decided to, you know, show it to people and then pursue some film festivals after the fact when film festivals figured out what they were doing. So our plan changed a bit with the pandemic, definitely.
So obviously you've been accepted into HollyShorts, which is one of the reasons I'm very fortunate to get to talk to both of you. Congratulations on that. How has the reception been so far from the film festivals?
I think it's been pretty good. I mean, like we had to, like I said, we pivoted based on what festivals ended up getting canceled. And then we're like, well, let's not apply to any more until we know what's going on, because, you know, that's a process in its own. But people have been pretty pumped. People have been pretty excited. I did a great panel with some of the directors in the comedy category for HollyShorts, and people seemed pumped to see it. So I haven't talked to them since, but I'm sure that they loved the idea and the concept, and we're really excited to see it.
The online response has been very good, definitely.
Very good, yeah. The online response has been overwhelmingly positive, and
which is not always the case on the internet.
It is not. People are excited to see more. So we've got a lot of, is there more coming? When is there more coming? So yeah.
Awesome. Do you both plan on continuing writing and directing more? Do you want to stay in the comedy genre? Do you want to try maybe a different field? Do you want to try other things? What's the kind of future look like for both of you?
Yeah, I'm sticking to the writing and the acting, and comedy is my world. I don't see me churning out a World War II drama anytime soon. I'm gonna stick to my dick jokes for now.
I would love to continue acting and directing. Producing kind of just comes hand in hand with it. I'm kind of the doer, and I will go in and make something happen. So the producing is just sort of a necessary element of it. But my real creative passion comes from the directing and the acting. I love comedy, would love to do more. I would love to see more female voices in comedy and more female directors in comedy. I also would like to do psychological thrillers. I know that those two things are kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, but sort of like the, you know, mental mind. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the F word on this. We had a podcast earlier today where it was the title was a simple fucking gesture. So I think you're okay. Yeah, I saw that. That director was on the panel. Yeah, I would love to do some thrillers. I'm very into the mind fuck genre, where you leave the movie and you're like, wait, what happened there? So I'm developing a project right now that I would love to see come to fruition. Who knows with the pandemic situation, but I would love to do more comedy and thrillers.
Awesome. Do either of you have kind of a anyone in particular you'd love to work with in the future? Kind of like a dream, like it would be a dream come true to work with someone or see someone playing this role or something like that?
Is it too much? Is Charlize Theron too big of a wish list? Or
No, aim as high as you want.
I mean, you said dream. I mean, she would be, but that would be my ultimate person to work with, especially for a thriller.
I mean, I love Catherine O'Hara, and I always have, always will. So that's a big one for me. Nice.
Hey, I said, they say, what's the saying? Shoot for the moon, aim for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. So
yeah.
Hey, why not? aim big.
Or you'll die in space. So
that is also true. That's the second part that they usually leave out.
Yeah, they tell you that right as you shoot off.
Hey, maybe that could make a good script for a comedy in the future.
Yeah, what was that movie that she did in space? Sandra Bullock with
Gravity.
Oh, Gravity. Yeah.
Where he literally went off into space and died rather than hanging out with her. That was the point of the movie, wasn't
it? Excuse me. So for our listeners and our viewers who may or may not get a chance to see this in HollyShorts, where else will it be available in the future potentially? Will it be available? Are you trying to get it on streaming platforms, online somewhere?
Blockbuster.
We are going to put together all three, I guess, chapter 2 and 3 as well. I call them chapters because, we had talked about calling them episodes. It's sort of like part 1, part 2, part 3, because we did part 1, which is, what is on HollyShorts, and there's more to come soon. If you go to Instagram and follow speechanddebate.film, you'll get all of our updates and some bonus content, and you'll get to catch up on what you missed.
Awesome. Now, just because I'm a camera nerd myself, I always love asking, what did you use to film this on?
A very fancy camera package. Everything that we did, I worked with the DP and said, I'm going to trust you on the technical aspect. So there's actually different cameras that we used, and I cannot even give you all the specifications because I trust the DPs to, really lean into what they're familiar with and what's in their kit.
They were big.
Yeah, they were.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. It's been a blast talking with you both. Congratulations on the success, and I can't wait to see the next part 2 and potentially part 3. If you want to give any spoilers or anything for an exclusive, we won't say no.
You know what? We're introducing a new character. And the focus is kind of that character's influence on how we got where we are today. So it's, I guess, a little bit of a prequel and a little bit of a sequel all in one, I think.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see what comes next. And I just want to say, keep directing and keep writing because you both are very talented at what you do. So
thanks.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode of the podcast. We'll be back real soon with more, so be sure to stay tuned. I wish our guests the best of luck with their new short film and can't wait to see what they have for us in the future. Any final words for our listeners before we go, Cassandra or Kamen?
I'm Kamen Edwards, the writer of Speech and Debate and an actor.
I'm Cassandra Amell, director and producer of Speech and Debate.
And you're listening to JeanBookNerd.com.